So today we're going to be talking about rent rolls and T12s. What is a rent roll? What is a T12? How do you use it? Really brief. And then I'm going to hop in with a live one, right? I'm going to put up a rent roll T12. We'll walk through it together. If y'all have questions, concerns, comments, let me know about that. I want to make sure that you always get your questions answered. You take time out of your precious Friday to attend a live stream like this. I want to make sure that you get your questions answered and you take away from this the information that you wanted and the purpose in which you join. So for those who are not familiar with me, maybe this is your first time attending, I do see some new faces here. So that's cool. Well, I see like one face. It's funny how these things go every week. Sometimes people are getting on camera. Sometimes everybody's shy. It's Friday morning. Who knows what y'all are doing, especially if you're not in the office or whatever. So, we got to stand there. If you do cut your camera on, great. If not, that's all right as well. But I do like when the cameras are on so I can see your faces. So sometimes I'm like, am I missing right now? Do you know what I'm talking about? Am I over your head? Am I not? Whatever. So if you can cut it on, please do that. If not, I understand. But for those who are just joining in, this is your first time. Let me just give you a brief introduction. So my name is Jason Stubblefield. We started investing in apartment complexes in 2016. Scaled a portfolio to a little over 1,000 units. What you're looking at right now on your screen is our website, realapartments.com. That's RIL apartments.com. You can read up more about what we're doing, the apartments that we're buying. You can see some of the properties that we have in our portfolio. Just to highlight to get more familiar with us. Also, we invest in deals and we are currently pursuing deals, currently writing letters of intent out. So practice what I preach. So if you want to hear about the deals that we got, if you want to hear about the opportunities that we have as we bring them out, and what you want to do at the top of this website, you have this Invest Now button. If you click on that Invest Now button, what it's going to do, it's going to break you to a brief form. You fill that out, and that will put you into our world, right? That way we'll have a brief conversation. And as we have opportunities, we'll share them with you. You can hear about those. If you're not on that list, then you won't hear about some of these deals, and it could be valuable to you if it fits your investment criteria. So that's a little bit about us, and let's go ahead and dig into this rent roll and T12. Brian says multitasking at work. Absolutely, I'm doing the same thing. So rent roll of T12. I just want to break this down real quick to let everybody know sort of what it is. A rent roll and T12 are the major documents that you're going to get as you evaluate a property. So you start off with a property, whether that is a seller, if you're direct to seller, or if you're going through a broker, you're going to go talk to that broker and ask for some information, financials about the apartment complex that you are pursuing. They in turn are going to give you a rent roll and a T12. Rent rolls, you all are familiar with this. It's just a list of all the tenants that are living there. When did they move in? When did they move out? Names, units, that sort of thing. And we'll review that in just a minute. The T12 is lingo. It's like multifamily jargon, but it stands for trailing 12 financials. And what you want to do is you want to look at a property for the whole year. Like my mom says, when you're talking with a woman before you get married, you want to see her in all seasons, all 4 seasons. As you are dealing with properties, you want to see a property in all 4 seasons. So you want to see what it looked like over the last year. For instance, like my man Keenan is coming in from Indiana. Indiana may have drastic variances in utility costs from the cold winters. So you may see utility costs might be $3,000 a month during the summer months, but then it gets colder in the winter and the utility bill may go to $8,000 a month, right? You don't know that if you don't look at the whole picture. So make sure that you have a trailing 12, whole 12 months of financials. On some instances, for whatever reason, you may not get the full year, but we try to get it. If you don't, you just have a few months, then you'll take it and you'll just annualize the numbers that you do have. But we mainly go for the full 12 months. So right now, what I do is just hop right into it and just look at a rent roll, because this picture, the image would be worth 1,000 words. All right, so let me bring this up on the screen, make sure I'm sharing the right thing and not not my tax return. I was try to get reviewed here. All right. So this is a property that we're looking at. What are you seeing here? Right. So this is a rent roll as of June 30th, 2022. Rent rolls will always be for a specific date, right? So it's a snapshot of some moment in time of when that property sent you the rent roll. Okay, this one in this instance is from June 30th, 2022. All right, so you got a breakdown over here. You got the unit numbers. Not much for you to really know there. Floor plan, right? As you look at these properties, there may be different floor plans. So you may have 1-1s, and that may be a floor plan. You may have 2-1s or 2-2s. And when I say 1-1, I mean 1 bed, 1 bathroom, 2-2, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Okay. Huge column over here, the square footage. And let me blow this up a little bit just in case it's hard to see. Y'all are quiet today. I'm assuming y'all can read this. So okay. Square footage. So what you'll see is, like, you see how this one is 610 square feet, and then you got another one at 610 square feet. This one is a 1A, and this one is a 1A. That's fairly common. Just letting you know, those are both 1 bedrooms. They're both the same square footage. You could have 1 bedrooms that come in a different square footage though. So you may have a 710 square foot 1 bedroom that might be slightly higher in rental income. That would just be noted. They may call that a 1A or 1C or however they choose it. Like, these codes are going to be generated by the property manager or the owner, whoever gives you this information. Not much for you to know about it. Just understand how to interpret it as you see it. We got the beds and the bath. That's pretty self-explanatory. Lease type. So right now we're looking at a lot of affordable housing deals. This is an affordable housing deal. So don't. There are some things that are relatively unique, but for the most part, I mean, 95% of this is going to be the exact same stuff if you're doing a market rate deal or an affordable deal. So we'll just keep it going. Occupancy status. All right, over here at column J, this is going to tell you if it's occupied or if it's vacant. So you go through here and you can now, from this information, determine how many units are occupied, how many units are vacant, by tallying it up. On most properties, you want to get to a summary, and that summary section will give you just that. So you can see it in the snapshot. Okay, there's 100 units here. There's 5 of them that are vacant. We already know that's 95% occupancy or 5% vacancy, and you can figure it out. In some instances, though, you may not get that summary, and then you need to do it manually. There are some softwares that help you do that. This software is generated in Red IQ, and Red IQ, as well as some others, they mainly take an Excel spreadsheet or PDF, and they make a sweet snapshot, and they do the summarization for you. So you might want to look into that. But there's nothing wrong with just good old manual as well. Okay. Moving along over here, you get to column K. We're now looking at the market rent. What you want to know is the market rent is someone's interpretation of what they think they can rent a unit for. Doesn't mean that they're actually renting the unit for that amount, right? That's why we call it the market rent. And then you see right beside it in column L, they have the contractual rent. So if we look here in the first line, the market, according to them, is $782. The contractual rent is $770. Side note, this is, let me get Karen in there. This is the beauty of affordable housing, right? Because where in the world can you stay in a 1 bedroom in the Atlanta metro for $770, right? It's pretty awesome for the people that need it. And so we like this model because it provides a need to underserved portion of our community. So we're into that. But side note, now back to the regular scheduled program. Contractual rent and the market rent will be a little bit different. All right. This delta in between the market and the contractual rent is what you'll call a loss to lease. Think about it as if there was a similar apartment complex across the street, exact same size, exact same amenities, pool, laundry room, exercise facility, all of that stuff, exact same building. And they had rents at $1,000 a month, and your property was renting at $800 a month. That's about the best rental comp that you can ever get in apartments. And now you would say, okay, I have someone living in unit 100 at, call it $800, but across the street it's $1,000. So now I know that there's $200 that I could raise rents on. Okay, so just think about market rate isn't necessarily set in stone, but it's an interpretation of what the property manager or the owner thinks that they should be charging for rent. And the contractual rent is what they're actually doing. Also, another way to think about this is during COVID or during rent increases, right? You may find out that you can charge $300 more in rent, but you have a long-term tenant who's been there, you like them for whatever reason, and you just don't want to increase their rent. So their rent is $800 and it really should be $1,000. This is the difference that you'll see between market and what they call contractual rent. Okay, recurring concessions, you don't see that much. What it is you may have a property may give people incentives for moving in. You may have seen this. We'll give you $200 off your first month rent. We'll give you $50 off every month to get somebody to move in. You'll see that on the recurring concessions on the rent roll. And then you got the net effective rent. And so you may think, well, what's the difference between the contract rent and the net effective rent? And so what that is sometimes there's additional fees or there may be, like if they have these concessions in here, depending on how the concession went, there may be a reduction in the net effective rent and the contractual rent. Right. So it may contract to $770, like in this first one. We'll say we're going to give you $25 off a month. And then this number over here will be $770 minus 25. Doesn't happen that often on an ongoing basis, especially where we are in the market right now with rental prices increasing. But just know that if you see an effective rent versus a contracted rent, it's the difference in between what they contracted for and any incentives that they had. That may be a reduction in rent, or it could also be an increase in rent. Okay, the other ones of these supplemental rent. Sometimes there's Section 8, or somebody may get some additional rent from another source. You may put that as supplemental rent, and also like other income. That's big. So other income may be you charge back for water. It could be month-to-month fee. So for instance, if somebody comes to rent a unit and they don't want to do a full year, you may say, okay, well, we'll do a 6-month lease for you. Before that, we want to charge you extra $50 a month, right? You'll see that in other income. All right. Moving along, you want to know the lease start date and the lease end date. That's big. If you're looking at this, the way that we think about it is, if this mainly you want to look at it and say like in a month. So we're about to approach May. So if I have a property and I see a lot of leases expiring in May, that may be a red flag, because if I don't renew all those leases or do something, there could be a mass exodus if everybody just leaves at the end of that lease, or there could be a lot of lease renewals and a lot of turnover, because now you have to turn all those units as well. So you want to pay attention to the lease expiration, and ideally you want to see a consistent expiration date spread out throughout the year, right? So you want, maybe there's 4 every month or 5 every month. It doesn't happen like that. Usually in the summer months, there's going to be a little bit of an uptick. In the winter months, it's not going to be as many people. But just think about that as you're looking at your rent roll. All right, then you got the lease terms. 12 months. That's pretty self-explanatory. Over here, they also, we mentioned month-to-month fees, but what this MTM is, it stands for month-to-month. And what that means is, like, even though they signed the lease, they just went month-to-month after that. So that tenant could leave after a 30-day notice. You could change the rents after a 30-day notice. So also, as you look at these lease expiration dates, you also have to think about maybe your value add strategy. Because if you're going to go in and increase rents to make more money, increase the value of the property, you can only do so according to this schedule here. So I'm going to say, as somebody moves out, now I can do a renovation, or if they leave, I have this amount of units to turn over. So the rent roll gives you a good peek into how the property is currently working as a snapshot, right? I mentioned the summary. I think it's over here on this floor plan section. This is all that data just broken out real pretty. And this is how we do it when you put this into your underwriting. So just a snapshot, 91 occupied units. What we had, 95 vacant units. So this is a 96 unit property. As you can see in the total square footage is what you have here, and the per unit summary, right? So mainly, on average, this property has a market rate of $164, but remember, market is just what they think it can rent for, and then the contractual rent is $748. So this delta in between here is what you look for as a value add strategy. If they are accurate in this, it's saying like they're at $864, and we could potentially go to 748. Sorry, we're at $748 in average rents, and we could potentially go to 864 according to this data. You never trust it. You want to verify it, but this just gives you their interpretation of where they think the property is running at right now. I'll move right on. If y'all have any questions, just put it in the chat. We'll get to it, but I'm going to get into a T12. All right, so this is for the same property, and this is the T12 or the trailing 12. One thing you want to know is, like, this is based off accrual based accounting. I like cash. If you can get cash, take cash, but most softwares would give you accrual based. When I say softwares, this is not coming from a person who just typed in all this information. Most property management companies, they leverage some software. It does a lot of this stuff for you, and then they just give you a printout of what happened over the last year. But the reason that you just want to know the difference in between accrual versus cash. Accrual is where they say this is what the property is supposed to do, and they subtract out certain expenses based off of that. So for instance, if we're going to make $100,000, we are contracted to have $100,000 in rent come in. It's going to look the same every month. So you see how this 82,961 is for every single month. It's not normal to collect the same amount of money every month on a property. So what is this number, and why is it so consistent? It's the accrual based accounting, meaning that they're giving you a consistent number because there is a consistent amount of money that they could collect, but cash basis shows you more of what actually came in. All right, so just know the difference in between that, and it gets into accounting and make it a little bit more unclear than what I like, but you got to play the game and understand it. Let's go through this. So every month they're going to tell you what the property did, how it functioned for that month. On broad scale, you want to make sure that you got 12 of these, right? 12 different columns for every single month, so that you know that you're looking at a T12. And then you really want to get to the total. All right, so total amount collected according to this, just a little less than $1 million. And then you also want to see the total of expenses that we'll look at, and that's at line 141. So each month we see their expenses. So they're about $600,000 here. All right, so that's how you get to your 333, which is the difference in between those. That's the total for the whole year. You want to take a look at what happened each month. So I want to run through this relatively quickly, and then we'll wrap this up. Total rental income, that's pretty self-explanatory. Now you got your vacancy loss. How many of those units that were there did not actually pay? Loss or gain to rent, gain to market, right? Yeah, gain or loss to market. So what this is what we talked about in the rent roll, saying that the property thinks they should be able to get X amount of dollars in rent, but they only collected an amount less than that. Usually it's a loss to market. or you may also hear it referred to as loss to lease, but that's what that number is referring to. So if you look at this, just like in column B, we're saying like we're supposed to collect $82,962 weren't there for whatever reason. It was just vacant. 3,000 of those dollars were lost to rent because we're not charging the full amount that we could. And then you have other things like concessions. We spoke about that briefly. You also may have a officer unit. So if there's a high crime in the area, they may offer a unit to the local police department. So just to have somebody come by, or you may even get an officer to live on the property to help with that. Bad debt. Bad debt is just money that a tenant owes you that they have not paid yet. So for instance, if they owe $1,000 in rent for whatever reason, they only gave you $900, you choose to accept that, you would now have $100 in bad debt, meaning that like they owe that to you. It could also happen if they did some damages and you gave them a fee. That's money that can be negative or positive depending on how it goes, right? If you didn't collect $100, then it would be a negative number. If you collected an additional $100, then that would be a positive number. All right. And you mainly want to get to this number right here, which is your net rental income. Then like after you total all that up, where are you at in income for each month? Same thing happens with other income. So now we get into the fees that you may charge, such as always going to have this late fees. People just are going to pay on time, and you have it in every property, whether it's an A-class property or C-class property, everything in between. People don't pay on time. So there's late fees that you charge them for that. You also may charge them for things like application fees. If people are doing application fees, they come in, they pay $50, that goes to the property. How much of that money did you get? That's in your application fee income. You can do other things like, I guess they charge for keys if a tenant loses their keys. You can have things included here like water, trash valet, just ancillary charges that you put on a property in order to juice the total amount of income that you can get. All right, so let's get into the expenses. And this is where the bulk of the work is, right? So you have these columns right here. Payroll is going to be one of your biggest expenses. So you see this property is doing total about $15,000 a month, right? In this month. And then it goes down some, it comes up some. A lot of times you're dealing with hourly employees. So you're thinking about maybe some months there's more hours or they do overtime. That will account for the fluctuations in this number. Administrative expenses, right? This is your accounting, this is legal fees, office equipment, etc. Basically all the admin stuff that goes with a property in order to have it function will go here. Now, I want to stop because this is actually active property that we're looking at right now, and there's this saying in the market, hey, you got to underwrite 100 deals to get a deal. Right? You got to underwrite 100 deals to get a deal. And while that might be true, I don't like subscribing to that, because a lot of people will underwrite deals, and what they do is they come over here and just look for the totals. All right. So as you put this in underwriting, you're going to come over here and see, here's the total amount of other income that we have. Here's the total amount of administrative fees that we have, and they just go off the totals. But I want to show you something right now. On the admin expenses, you see there was $16,000 that was charged to this property in the month of whatever this is, July. All right, so July, $16,000. Now the rest of the time, this is only $1,000, $1,500 the next month, $900 the next month. So this is abnormal. And if you are just trying to underwrite as many deals as possible so you can get through with it, you're going to ignore stuff like this. And so here's where you need to do a little bit of investigating to see, is this a normal expense or not? If you understand multifamily and cap rates, and I'm not going to go into that, right? But at $16,000, if a property made $16,000 in additional income, it will be worth more. And if a property has $16,000 in additional expenses, it will be worth less. How much less? At a 10 cap, that's $160,000 of value that sits in this number right here. At a 5 cap, that's $320,000 in additional value from this line right here. So don't just rush through underwriting without inspecting the T12 and then investigating this number. Like if we're both underwriting the same deal and you'll look at it and say, oh, they want $300,000 more than what this property is worth. But the savvy investor is going to come in, talk to the broker, talk to the property manager and say, why is it 16,000 here? Is this happening every month? If so, let's calculate it. Let's account for it. But if not, let's normalize this and get it down to something more reasonable, which is 2,000. That's going to make our evaluation of the property go up. All right. So I went off on a tangent there, but really want you to think about this because these T12s are telling you a story about this property. I mentioned briefly about utility costs, right? And how utilities may fluctuate depending on the month. You want to be inspecting those things to see where you might be able to make a deal work or where you may want to disqualify a property at. All right, marketing expenses. If you think about marketing, it is, oh man, I got to hurry up because get out of here. Marketing is mainly like what they're doing. If a property is not filled to capacity, you may see more expenses in this category. As they fill up, they won't spend as much on marketing, right? Makes sense. Utilities, you see that's broken down to gas, sewer, trash, water expenses. Water is going to be one of your larger expenses. So you really want to take a look at that just to see, is it being consistent, right? What I'll do is look at these numbers here. What numbers stick out? This one seems pretty consistent. You may get from time to time, like it's a $3,000 water bill here. That can be from a running toilet and really just 2 running toilets. A runny faucet, they can do that to your water bill. So pay attention there. Maintenance and repairs, same thing, just seeing where they are they normalizing it? Remember how I said that these things sort of tell a story? As you go up to the legal fees, right? This is a big one. How much are they spending on eviction costs? So this month, $195. This month, $5,925 to attorneys. Why are you in court so much? You see what I'm saying? So as you look at these deals, these numbers are going to tell you something, tell you areas to investigate, where to look at, where to dig deeper, and where not to. Maintenance, you got your taxes, you got your insurance. Last thing, and then I'll wrap this up. Know that the mortgage is not included in the T12. That is not calculated in your NOI. So we always exclude the mortgage from that. Also, capital expenditures, which is what I talked about last week. You won't see that above the line, right? Sometimes they'll put it underneath here and they'll tell you like, hey, we changed the parking lot or we gave the property new windows, but that's not a recurring expense. The T12 is really just for those recurring expenses that happen month after month, right? Overall, you get to the NOI, which is what they got here. You scroll out to the right, that property made $333,000 for the year, and you'll make your offer based off of that and any adjustments that you may have made. So from that, all that information will go into your underwriting. You'll take that underwriting and then you make your offers from it. But hopefully that was thorough enough for you to have an understanding. So as you look at these documents, you know what to look out for, you know how to pay attention to them, and then use them in your underwriting. Questions? Okay, Jim says he can read it fine. That's good. Before I got into all that, no questions. You know what? I felt like I nailed that. Y'all don't have anything to say. It's either you sleep or I did a good job of explaining it. Hopefully it's that I did a good job of explaining it. If you didn't, if you're on Facebook and you have a question, drop that in the chat. I try to go back through and answer those from time to time. Nisi says, love this. Appreciate you, Nisi. We do this every Friday. So we'll be back with something else for next week. Other than that, I got to take off. My time is up. Y'all have a great day. Be the best version of you because it'll make you the happiest. And I'll talk to y'all next week. Take care.